Welcome to UK Business Show, UK's premier business show where we feature business thought leaders, high achievers, and industry experts. Today's episode is brought to you by World Outsourcing Solutions Limited, a company that specializes in helping executive business owners with virtual assistant services and business growth systems. Here's your host.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. It's Trevor with you today. And I also have with me my co-host for this episode, the founder of Cambridge Money Coaching, Dennis Harhalakis. Welcome, Dennis.
Thank you, Trevor. It's a pleasure to be with you again.
Great to be able to chat with Michelle in detail shortly. So I guess Michelle has been on the show before. You'll be familiar with her name as well. She spoke with Yoko and she shared practical elements with regards to selling a business. How do you prepare for selling a business? Definitely worth checking out. Episode 439, but not right now. Stay where you are for now. Michelle's graciously returned to help us learn how to excellently transition from the corporate world into the consulting world. Something that she did successfully 10 years ago when she founded Lantern Partners. It's now a thriving virtual CFO business. It's grown to 10 staff as well, serving clients internationally. So lots that we can learn from her and her journey. Welcome, Michelle. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, lovely to be back. I'm looking forward to chatting.
Yeah, definitely. Let's dig in. So for people that want to dig in a little bit more into your history, they can catch the other episode. But maybe just a very brief background, because I'm keen to find kind of like some of the drivers, some of the motivations from sort of moving from corporate into consultancy for yourself. Sure. Cast your mind back 10 years. What did it feel like?
Yeah, it was interesting. So at the time, I had been working in corporate within finance for a number of blue chip companies, mainly in the sort of media marketing technology space. And I'd been working in an area of finance, which is broadly called kind of commercial finance, which is, you know, the financial planning and advising and the business partnering within businesses to kind of help them work out budgets, forecast scenarios, that kind of thing. And I'd always had in the back of my mind that I wanted to be self-employed, but I didn't know what that looked like. And I didn't think that what I did within finance, because I you know, I'm not a tax accountant, I'm not a you know, a super technical you know, statutory accountant or anything like that, which is what I think most people, or at least I thought most people understood by finance. And so even though I'd always had this drive to kind of go and work for myself, but I just wasn't sure that I had something to offer outside of the corporate world. But I've been thinking about it for years. And to be honest, I'd got to a point within corporate, and, you know, I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with this feeling, where I was really kind of pretty burnt out and frazzled, and my career kind of wasn't taking me in the direction, wasn't fulfilling me or kind of making me feel the things that I thought I would be feeling at this point in my career. And so I very kind of ungracefully kind of exited from corporate life. You know, I'd love to say that it was this very kind of well thought through, very kind of meticulously planned exit, but I just quit with nothing to go to, no real business plan, nothing, and started building this consultant life. And, you know, there's a whole bunch of, you know, dead ends and rabbit holes and things I wish I'd done better when I'd actually launched into consultant life the first time, and so much information I wish I'd had at the time. Yeah. And over, you know, it's worked out well. It's maybe taken me a little bit longer than it otherwise would have done. But as you said, I now run a thriving virtual CFO business, working with founder CEOs, entrepreneurs, helping them accelerate their business growth, business plans, help them achieve the outcomes that they want from their business. And, you know, I love it. We now have a team of 10. We work with clients nationally and internationally. I was lucky enough to be up for a couple of awards this year, but you know, it could have been so much smoother. It could have been it could have gone a slightly different way, I think, or got there faster if I just had a bit more information. And to be honest, over the last 10 just over 10 years now since I've had the business, I've actually had a lot of people ask me, so how did you do it? What were you thinking? What do you wish you'd known then? So I kind of had this, I've now kind of packaged it up so that I can, I guess, distill all those pieces of information I wish I'd had at the time. So yeah, and that's what I guess has brought me to today and kind of where the business is now.
That's really good, because you've now consolidated that learning in the form of a course, which we'll sort of dig into a little bit more in a moment. It's interesting. We were chatting to another guest recently who was kind of in a similar scenario, but approached it from a different perspective. And I think part of that's down to how we're wired, isn't it? Certain personalities like the challenge, like to kind of jump out and grow your wings on the way down as such, which is a really good phrase. And other people are a lot more, put lots of different things in place, and then it's almost like the final step. So yeah, no, it's interesting. And I guess as you were saying it, my first thought was, what were the things you didn't know that you didn't know? And I guess that's what you put in the course, but what was maybe the first thing you struggled with from being in a sort of corporate career to then, okay, it's me?
I think I was quite lucky when I started out, because I remember when so basically I'd come up with my business name, because obviously that's the most important thing, right? You come up with your business name. It's like getting your project name when you work in corporate. It's the first thing you do. I wanted to get sort of business cards done, because I launched the business in 2011. Business cards is where it's at. And I went to a friend of mine that ran a design agency, and I said, look, can you do me a logo? This is the name. Can you just do a logo, and I want to make the business cards? And she was like, no, that's not how that works. You need to know kind of what your business stands for, who you are, what your offering is, who are you talking to, and then I can do you a logo. And what she actually made me do was one of the most important things that I did at the beginning of this journey, is that she kind of made me sit down and kind of really work out my why and who my ideal client was and who I was speaking to and what problem I was solving for them. Because I think a lot of time we get caught up with, what is it we can do? What is the thing I do? And let's just talk a lot about the thing I do. Whereas your client is utterly uninterested in the thing you do. They want to know you can see their problem and you know how to solve it, which sort of sounds like it might be the same thing, but it actually is a very different way of talking to a potential client or customer. And it just reframes it very much around them and what their problems are. And I wish I'd got to that bit quicker. But in the end, I got there quicker than I maybe could have done, because I had this great friend who kind of set me straight very, very early on in the process. But that was so important to getting those first steps right when kind of going out and talking to potential clients.
Yeah.
So yeah, having that focus is really important.
I can imagine a lot of the listeners are nodding. Yeah, been there. Yeah, I know what that's like. So you also help kind of other people do that transition process as well, don't you? So are you seeing the same kind of hurdles, the same things that they deal with? I don't know. Any case studies you want to just dig into and share a few examples of people that are navigating something? Because people will be listening, won't they, and thinking, actually, I think I need to make that shift. And I think it's happening more and more now. I think particularly coming out of the last 2 years that we've come out of,
And I think with the growth of you know, the entrepreneurial mindset and the growth in small businesses, the growth in freelancing, I think that a lot of people are just thinking about it more, and thinking about, particularly after the last 2 years, we've had a lot of time to think, and really kind of figure out what we want from this thing we call life. And career is so important within that as well. One of the people I actually talked to, I've got 4 amazing speakers on the course, and one of them is this guy called Joe Hart, who's an organizational psychologist, who's written a book and has developed this process called True Perspective. And I think we kind of quite often think about work and life as 2 different things, like this balance of work and life, these 2 very separate things that we must be constantly kind of tweaking in order to kind of have that ideal scenario. But bringing those 2 things together and not having, you know, I was certainly guilty of it in corporate life. I had my work personality, and then I had the me personality. And you know, completely Jekyll and Hyde. They weren't completely different, but they were quite separate. And I think one of the things that you're able to do when you work for yourself is to start bringing those 2 things closer together. And I actually think it's really important that you do that. And you know, part of the reason why this course has come about is that informally I've been having these conversations for years with people that want to go out and do their own thing. And I think that one of the key things, and you know, I talk about 5 key pitfalls to avoid, and one of them is definitely around this being comfortable with wearing all of the hats in a business. You know, when you are in a corporate career, less so as you increase in seniority, I think, but you know, you have your wheelhouse. For me, it was finance. For some people, it's marketing. For other people, it's HR. For other people, legal, for example. But when you run your own business, you can't stick to just your field anymore. You have to get really comfortable with all of these different aspects of running your business. You know, yes, you might have an accountant helping you with your finances, but you need to understand your finances. Yeah. You may have someone helping you with your marketing, but you need to understand your marketing and who you are and what your product offerings are. You need to do sales, otherwise you don't have a business. You know, all of these different aspects, and you just can't avoid, you know, wearing all of them. Your business really suffers. And I think that's a real challenge for people stepping out of corporate life. Yeah. And that's what I see with people that have tried to do it and then gone back into a corporate career. And, you know, what I also say to people is there is nothing wrong with that. Try it. What's the worst that's going to happen? You go back to your job. There will be jobs. You will still be able to go back into your corporate career. You know, you may have to kind of dust off your ego a little bit, but, you know, just try it. But the reason why I see a lot of people doing that is because there's an aspect of running your own business as opposed to the discipline that you do that they're not prepared to do, because it's completely out their comfort zone. A lot of the time it can be around, particularly if you're in corporate careers, which are, I guess, broadly professional services, it can be that sales and marketing aspect that really feels deeply uncomfortable to actually put yourself out there time and time again to say, hi, I'd like you to buy from me. This is, I'd like to get to know you. I'd like to get to know your problems. And this is how I can solve your problems. But it's outside of a lot of people's comfort zone. I think it's like that whole, you know, speaking in public and presenting. Most people aren't that comfortable with it, right? But even if you're not comfortable with it, you have to get okay enough with it to do it. It's really important. And that's something that I see people struggle with quite a lot.
Yeah, totally. I mean, you whatever 10 hats, 6 hats, whatever else it is. Because if you take the numbers, for example, unless you're an accountant, no one sets up in business because they love accounting. They love doing their accounts. They set up because they want to be a web designer, or they want to open a flower shop, or whatever it is. And then it comes with, as you say, all of this baggage, particularly if you're in the service space where you're selling yourself. You don't have a product, you are the product. And if you're not spending 90% of the time marketing, then you're not getting any sales. And I worked in corporate for 30 years, and I worked in smallish organizations. And it was interesting when you get people from large organizations, they come to small organizations, they go, well, where's the legal support, or where's this, or where's that? And you go, well, you are that, right? And they go back.
You're looking at it.
And they go back to the large organizations that have those structures. And it's even more critical when you set up on your own. One thing that Trevor alluded to, we spoke to someone who is a career coach. So she helps people. She wrote a book called Manage Up. So she helps people manage up, which is a really interesting aspect, because most of the time we're taught how to manage down. And we're talking about the inflection point at which you leave a toxic environment, for example. So you've got the push piece. And what I'm hearing from you is really interesting aspects of the pull piece, but they're different, aren't they? So
they are absolutely different.
And I'm curious around whether you'd like to explain a little bit more about what, whether the push thing is enough to make you into an entrepreneur.
Yeah, I absolutely think it's not enough. And it's one of the things that we dig into in terms of first steps, because I think a lot of the time it's, and I did this, right? It was what I was running away from. It wasn't something I was running towards when I made that leap. And I think this is your chance to design the next step in your career, the next step in your professional life. You get to design it in a way that you don't get to within a corporate environment. You can design little pieces of it, but essentially you've got a job spec and you work within a certain company. So there's some limited flexibility. But when you get to design your work life, I think it's really important to sit down and work out what consulting means to you. Does it mean you want to freelance and you want to work on, a project stop for a couple of months, a project stop for a couple of months, and that's what is important to you? Or, do you want to build a business? Then they're not the same thing. But both of them are about transitioning into a corporate life. So I think it's really important to spend time and have that kind of quiet space and thinking space to work out, what you want when you make that leap. Not just leap hoping the grass is greener, but actually knowing what you want that grass you land on to look like. And I think it's fundamentally important, because otherwise you'll find yourself going round in circles, or you'll find yourself I think it's tied up into your ideal client to a certain extent as well. What kind of people do you want to work with? What kind of businesses do you want to work with? You have to have that. And I like that idea of kind of pull versus push, because you need to work out what's pulling you over there, as well as kind of what's making you kind of fall in a heap out the other side of corporate.
Yeah. You've got I'm just sort of looking at the course module titles. It's a very comprehensive course, kind of packed into 7 different modules. One of them being mental preparation, which I think we sort of started to touch on a bit as well. And also the first steps. But just who would the course be for? Literally people that are floundering because they've made that step and don't know the next steps, or is it literally, as you say, first module was first step? So is it more go through this first and answer some of the key questions that, are you being pushed or pulled, or how are you approaching?
Yeah. So this course is designed for people that are either still in the corporate, in their corporate role, but want to either it's something that they know they want to do, or they think they may want to do, to help them explore a bit further what it might look like, what might be involved, what kind of things they need to think about. And that will really set them up well for making that step out. But I think it's also for people that have taken the first tentative steps out, because even if you have already started working as a consultant, those first steps, I think, can still be done at any point in those early stages of becoming a consultant. You don't just get one shot to do this, right? Your business will evolve, your consultant life will evolve. It's not for people that have been doing consulting for years, unless for some reason they've been doing it for a few years and it just isn't what they thought it was going to be. So they almost need to kind of revisit that thinking. But really, it's more specifically targeted to those first two examples.
Okay, yeah, makes a lot of sense. Lots of different. I'd like to talk to you about all the modules because they all sound really good. Maybe so. There's one. Let's dig in a little bit into the mental preparation. Because one, I'm thinking more. I'm guessing once you'd made the decision and you started, suddenly uncertainty didn't disappear from your life, did it? There's wherever you are, you have to navigate it. So how do you help people sort of kind of stay balanced and navigate over and through the waves of uncertainty?
Yeah, in the mental preparation module, I talk a lot about support networks. And those support networks, for me, kind of fall into two main areas. The first one is around personal support networks. So this is kind of family and friends, people that have known you for a long time and will support you in this journey. Kind of, you can be honest with them, they can be honest with you. And that's really, really important. I do talk about not everybody's opinion within those personal support net or those friends and family. Not everybody's support, frankly, will be forthcoming. Auntie Margaret, who's been in her corporate job for 20 years and sees no reason to change, isn't she there's an element of risk of going into your own business. She was not going to be comfortable with that. So the advice she gives you or the support she does or doesn't give you isn't going to be useful to her. So don't talk to her about that. One of the founders I work with has this great phrase, which is never ask the advice of someone who hasn't been where you want to go. And I think that's so important because not everybody's opinion is valid. It's usually with the very best of intentions, but it might not be useful to you. Doesn't mean you've only got to listen to the positive, but you have to find a way of filtering whose opinion is useful to you in these circumstances. The other thing that I talk about in terms of mental preparation is around specifically business support networks. And those two circles may intersect. I have friends within my personal support network that also run their own business. And we have slightly different conversations than we do with some of our other friends, because we'll want to dig into, oh my goodness, what happened today in terms of this client or that client, or how do I grow? And, I've got to that awkward adolescent part of my business and I don't know how to get out of it. What did you do in this circumstances? But that isn't necessarily available to everyone. You may not know anyone personally that started their own business. And I think if you don't, I think it's important to seek out those communities. Podcasts like this series, for example, in most, most places kind of globally, you've got it, and thank goodness we can do in person now. You've got in-person networks where you can talk to other business owners, people starting up their own businesses, and there's a wealth of forums and online communities where you can join. And I actually think that's really, really important as well. You've got to have both those things, because talking to people who have been where you are now is really, really key, because they'll have insights from those few steps further down the road that your personal friends and family network, if they haven't run their own businesses, just won't have. They will be hopefully beautifully supportive in this journey, in these kind of new steps you're taking, but they won't necessarily have the insights that will be helpful for you. So I think it's really important to have those too. So I talk a lot about that in terms of the mental preparation. And I also talk about the importance of making sure you don't get depleted during this journey. It's hard, right? Running your own business is hard. So making sure that you make time for the things that nourish you mentally, physically, spiritually, it is really important. And it is as important as all of the technical finance and legal steps and all of those kind of things, because that's what's going to sustain you when things are tough. And there will be tough times during business. That's just inevitable. It's not that there are, not tough times in a corporate career, but and this, frankly, that advice is as useful for people in corporate careers. But I think we have a tendency as a people to think that is less important, and it really isn't. I think it's critically important for making sure you succeed in whatever you do in life professionally.
Yeah, there's so much good advice in all of that. I'm not going to ask you whether you made all of those mistakes yourself when you first started off, but what came up for me when you started talking about how you essentially left was that I've made these mistakes so you don't have to. There's a richness in your learning that comes from making those mistakes, and finding your way forward, and distilling that is so powerful for other people, because you don't have to make all those mistakes. Some of them you have to learn, some of them you have to find out for yourself. Oh, that's what she meant. Now I get it. Oh yeah, okay, fine, all right, but not all of them. So that's what's so powerful
not all
about
of them.
your origin story. Does that make sense?
No, it totally does. I mean, there's a couple of analogies that I use when talking about some of this explaining is that it's almost like trying to explain to a parent to be what it's going to be like having a child, or someone that's embarking on a renovation for the first time, actually what it's going to feel like once you're in the middle of this. And there are some aspects that you actually, I think, can't understand in your bones until you're actually walking it. But that's when you can go back to the course and go, I remember when she said this is normal, this is okay. I she said I was going to feel like this, and this is how I get out of it. So yes, not all of the not all of the mistakes I made you'll have to make, and but even if you will make mistakes. Everybody does. It's perfectly natural and normal, and it's going to feel weird for a lot of people to be running your own business for the first time when you've always been in a career, but it's okay, and this is why it feels like this, and this is how you get out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're doing something really that you've never done before, so you don't have this your brain doesn't have the ability to predict, and you don't know what you don't know either. So there's a huge amount of that to it. And that's why what you're doing here is so valuable, because it's at least alerting you to what's going on, even if you still trip up over a few of those items. It's not like unwanted parenting advice. That's always unwelcome. But
but yeah, exactly. So this is like this is like your formula. These are the 7 steps in your formula for making this a success, and that's what I really hope people will get out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a virtual course. So wherever you are in the world listening to this, you can plug in. And so it's self-paced. Just talk us through the different module steps. Just we're kind of coming to the end of the time, but why don't you sort of just touch on each of them? Okay,
cool. So the first one is, aptly named First Steps, and that is really around the why of doing this, and the pull, and exactly what you want your life to look like. And we spend quite a lot of time on that because, you know, as I've said before, I really think it's important to spend time thinking about it. Then the next module is around the technical aspects of becoming a consultant. And what I mean by technical aspects is the finance aspects, the legal aspects, and within legal, I talk a little bit about IP as well. And one of the guest speakers on the course is IP specialist, particularly in the area of trademarks. And that really, this is one area that is quite easy to get wrong or to trip up on. So we spend some time kind of talking about that as well. And then things like, you know, insurances, there's a whole bunch of insurances out there, but which ones do you really need? Those kind of things. The third step is around clients and defining your ideal client. How do you do that? What's the process? The fourth step is around the tools, processes, and then as your business grows, if you want it to grow beyond you, how do you do that? How do you build out your team? Who are your first hires? What should you be thinking about there? The fifth one is around mental preparation, which is what we've touched on earlier. The sixth one is around the key pitfalls to avoid. I've got kind of 5 doozies in there that I really want everyone that does this course to avoid. And then number 7 is around the action plan and what next. And as we go through the course, yes, it's self-paced, but there's also a workbook and kind of exercises to do, to complete, to really get the most out of it. Then there's also the option to also kind of level up and have some individual time with me as well, just to really, you know, plan these next steps out, to hold yourself accountable to your journey. So yeah,
that sounds really good. So any questions that you kind of get through the course which you're not sure about, we can just chat to you and you can clarify and that sort of stuff, and yeah, kind of give that nice nudge that people need to then go from theory to practical, isn't it, really?
Yeah, and there's an order, isn't there? You touched on this earlier. It's not like some of the above, it's all of the above in this order would be optimal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Don't go straight to designing the website.
Absolutely. Because that's the other thing as well. I know people that have spent, and one of the pitfalls is around procrastination. And you can spend so much time procrastinating around, you know, just getting that final tweak on your website or your copy or whatever it is. I can't do anything until I've done this one thing to perfection. And my God, you can spend so much time holding yourself back, and it's all very fear-based.
Right. And I imagine it's also around avoiding the things that cause you discomfort. I really should be doing more of this, but I just don't feel like it today. It's like, so I'm just going to throw in one tiny thing around money, which is, are you prepared for having moved from something where you get paid regular amount to uneven cash flows? Are you prepared to understand that your personal views around money will leak into how you handle your finances when you set up? And if you don't, you need to, because you can't avoid that.
It's such a good point, because you know, that is the thing that a lot of people are, you know, understandably scared about. People have rent to pay, people have got mortgages to pay, kind of putting food on the table, and it can be scary, and working that stuff out is really important.
It's totally scary, and the problem is, if you know, certain people personality wise are more advised to stay within the comfort of the 3 most addictive things in the world, I think, are drugs, sugar, and a regular paycheck. So if that's you, that's okay. Don't walk out from that safety net, because it's pretty scary out there. And then what can happen is, if that paralyzes you, it's going to mess with your decision making process. You're not going to make optimal decisions from your business if you're fear driven.
You know what it was, you know what it was that finally made me make the leap, because it was around that as well, and kind of, you know, working out partly the money. So I made a spreadsheet that was literally entitled "What's the worst that could happen?" And I had my savings, and it had all of the monthly outgoings I had, and it basically gave me a runway to, okay, now you need to go back and get a corporate job. And that was enough to knock out the fear for me. But that file was called "What's the Worst That Could Happen?"
That's really good.
XLS.
yeah, exactly.
Thank you, Michelle. There's so much in just the time we've had together, but the course is literally out. So we're chatting in July 2022, and it's coming out next month, isn't it? 15th of August is the launch date.
15th of August.
So by the time this gets aired, if you're listening to it just before then, make sure you bookmark Michelle's website, so that you go back to it, put it in your calendar as well. What would be, talking of websites, best way for people to kind of touch base with you if they want to find out more, if they want to jump straight in and say, no, I know exactly what I need to do now. Michelle's read my mail. It's just down to me. I'm going to do it now. Strike while the iron's hot. Head to our website and sign up. What would be the website?
So we'll drop a link into the show notes, which will put you on the mailing list. So the wait list for the course, you'll be the first one to find out when it launches. And so it will all be there for you.
Perfect. You've thought ahead. I like that. Good. Thank you for what you've shared. It's all practical stuff, and it's the stuff that you're going to experience, aren't you, one way or another. If you're going to take that step, or you're thinking about it, then you're definitely going to encounter. I would be surprised if you take the course and think, oh, none of that was applicable to me. It's like, it's all applicable because Michelle's lived it, and she's doing the course to save you years, if not thousands and thousands of pounds, or whatever your currency is, and sleepless nights as much as anything else.
And your sanity mainly, possibly your marriage.
Yeah, definite sanity saver.
So if you're not sure about investing, get your relatives to invest because they'll benefit. That's what I would say. No, it's all good. And the two key elements of starting a business really is you've got to be prepared to grow, haven't you, throughout the journey. I mean, it's a good philosophy of life anyway, but particularly you're going to come across stuff all the time that you have to learn and grow. And so getting courses and things like this where you can just access when you need to is perfect. Second thing is leading yourself well. And that comes really down to making yourself accountable, investing in a course or something that's going to help you get to where you want to go, and then working through the process of the exercises, the action plan at the end. It's a comprehensive way that helps you navigate past yourself as much as anything when you are going to procrastinate and decide to do the things you like doing instead of the things you need to do. We all know what that's like. We're all culprits from time to time as well. But no, all useful stuff. So thank you for making it available to people. And for everybody listening, like, you know where you are on the journey. Are you sort of being pushed, pulled? Are you exploring? Or maybe this is the start of, actually, life is short. Maybe I should look and think about exploring a completely different way than where I'm going. Do I want to stay in the corporate career I'm in? If you do, brilliant. If not, this is a good way of exploring it, managing that risk, or do what Michelle did and just jump out straight away and then work out how long you've got to go. But no,
don't do that.
Absolutely. So yeah, thank you again. Thanks, Dennis, as well, for joining us as well. Time has run out on us. Always good to chat. Always fun chatting to experts.
Yeah, you're welcome. I think there's a when you start a business, there's a huge number of calls on your time and your money, but the best investment is in yourself, and this to me sounds like the best place to start.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. It's been an absolute pleasure chatting to you.
Brilliant. And if you want to come back again at some point, there's lots more we could chat about. Always good. But no, it's brilliant. Thank you for your time.
Right.
For everybody listening as well, make sure you take some action. Definitely listen to Michelle's other episode as well. But seriously think about where you are, where you want to go. And if this is a really good tool, getting on the course, working through it, getting support from Michelle and her team as well, then that's the obvious next step for you. If you're not quite there yet, think about it. and explore a bit more by heading to the website. There will be a link below. She said, just click through as well and find out more about Michelle and what she does that we haven't been able to cover on here. She's a very talented lady, so she can help you in lots of different ways. But let's wrap it up for now. Just remember that we believe in you. We believe in your potential. And if this is the next step in your fulfilling your potential, go for it. There'll be people to support you. And if you need to think about it more, do that. It's all good, but make sure you give yourself time to really live the life that you want to live. Because yeah, life is short. So enjoy it while you've got it and help other people as well. Thanks again, both of you. It's been brilliant. We will wrap it up for now. Catch you all next time.
Thank you for listening to UK Business Show. We will be back to bring you more episodes with success stories and advice straight from the experts. Want more? Check out www.ukbusinessshow.com. Get your free trial of our virtual assistant service today. Just visit www.worldoutsourcingsolutions.com. Quote WOS18 or send us an email at support@worldoutsourcingsolutions.com.